I didn't think there was any sort of medication out there, and it got to a stage where there was a lot of times that I thought about committing suicide.
With a headache, you can still manage. 9 times out of 10, you can still manage to do things. You can still complete your task. When you get to the point of a migraine, it actually is debilitating in the sense that you can't stand up, you can't think, you just can't do anything. And then you get physically sick.
Well, we try everything. We're off for the magic cure because it's ruining our lives. But it's not just our lives it's ruining the lives around us.
Recently in March 2017, I got an onset of a migraine, and within about 30 seconds a hot flush went through my body and I collapsed in a lift. I seen a neurologist, so I went to him for 2 years on different medications each month. So he'd walk in, prescribe me with medication, try that for a month, didn't work, try another medication. So that didn't work, and I just started living with the thought that migraines were going to be a part of my life forever. No one's ever really come with a proper answer why. So for myself, I'm lost for words. How or why we get migraines is all I know is that it's probably the worst pain that I've ever had in my life, and it's just ruined my life.
There was a study that was done in Mayo Clinic catchment area a few years back where they surveyed the close to 2,000 chronic migraine sufferers, and they asked 2 simple questions. How many patients with a diagnosis of migraine do actually get a diagnosis as migraine, and also very simple advice what to do with an acute attack of headache or other neurological symptoms, and what to do in relation to prevention. The shocking answer was this number was somewhere around less than 5%. Less than 5% of them would walk away with a diagnosis of their medical disorder.
Through the migraines and through the effect of my lower back, I haven't been able to function or work at the level that I wanted to. So then it becomes a budgetary problem as well. Because I can't generate the income that I would like to, the medications have become very expensive. And I've had to sort of be very smart and careful about how and when I take the medications as well, rather than just sort of say, okay, well, I can take them all the time.
There's a tendency to self-medicate, particularly with painkillers, just so that they can get to the next meeting or to the next appointment or the next soccer game. This often leads to a very vicious cycle of ongoing headaches and migraines, and is not one that usually just resolves on its own. They need to take a very active role in their self-care and get treatment for their migraines.
Headache disorders and migraine are actually the leading cause of disability in most countries, and this is indeed the case in Australia. The estimated number of migraine sufferers in Australia is just over 5 million. So it is a huge burden in this country. The difficulty is, if you look at the public hospital funding and university funding and funding support that we had from national funding bodies such as NHMRC, when it comes to headache disorders, it is either nil or hardly any. So there is a huge discrepancy. On one hand, we have this disorder which is causing huge amount of burden, crippling the health of fellow Australians. And on the other hand, we put very little money to find answers to solve this problem.
To get on a disability pension of any type, you have to have a rating of 20. They see chronic migraine sufferers, well, from what I'm led to believe, it's not on their list of disability. You have to have a score of 20, and I rated a 5 with all of the evidence that submitted to them.
The quality of my work hasn't slipped. It might be a little bit slower, only because the cognition's not firing on all cylinders. But I actually get praised for my work, and the level of the work is actually just as high. And I tend to be a fast worker anyway, so it tends to even out. But unfortunately, because I do tend to have some days off or whatever, I had to be let go because I couldn't work full time as such, because I wasn't there all the time.
There is a huge economic impact of migraine worldwide, Australia in particular, with just more than 5 million migraine sufferers in this country, majority of them being working class people. There would be significant hidden cost as well as non-hidden cost. There would be cost of frequent hospitalization. There would be costs of frequent visits to doctors. This becomes even more worse as there is this strong stigma against migraine and headache disorders, even in the medical community. On one hand, the most doctors believe that this is a very simple headache and nothing serious. But on the other hand, these are serious complex neurological disorders that consume a lot of the doctor's time to take histories, examine and trying to resolve problems. So the cost of migraine to this country, although we have not studied this formally, would be in the realm of trillions. Therefore, the supporting proper migraine care programs and supporting translational research would definitely benefit the policymakers very rapidly compared to other disorders.
I do have a job that is high responsibility. It's stressful, but I like my job. I like the stress that comes with the job. And the first thing I hear is like, you're stressing too much. Work is just too heavy. That's what is causing you. You're not able to handle that stress. Hence, you're having these episodes. But I don't believe it's that. I think it's something, and it was just such a bad timing because I had my annual review. So I even mentioned the fact that, I'm due for, not a pay rise, but a promotion. And he goes, oh, but, that comes with extra responsibilities, and beware of what you wish for because, if you pretty much, I'm just rephrasing, but saying, you can't handle this stress. How can you handle a promotion or, what comes with it? So it is quite frustrating.
The most pervasive and damaging myth or misperception is that it's not, in fact, a real medical disorder. And if people could just cope a little bit better, then they wouldn't be suffering so much. But that's absolutely not the case. It is a true medical disorder, and there are numerous different sorts of treatments that are available for it.
When I first started getting them, my daughter was 5, my son was 7. So my children have actually grown up with me having migraines all their life, basically.
Migraine is much more common in women. It's 3 times as common in women as it is in men. This is primarily because of the relationship between estrogen and migraines. Many women have migraines that are triggered by fluctuations in estrogen, and this accounts for the pattern of migraines that occurs at various stages of the reproductive cycle.
I have patients of mine whose brain gets sick few hours to few days prior to get their headache. And then they would go through the headache phase, and then after headache phase, they would have few days, sometimes even more longer, which we categorize as post-drome after the illness that contribute to a lot of agony also. This may include severe nausea, or trouble tolerating light, or disorientation, not being able to perform their daily life.
It's certainly true that it may not be easy to identify medication overuse headache, and one good way of doing it is for the patient to keep a diary which indicates exactly how often their headaches are occurring, but also indicates how often they're using medication. I actually find one of the best ways is to ask how many days in a month are crystal clear. And it's often a surprising thing that patients will say, well, I'm getting maybe 8 bad days of headache a month, but then they're actually getting milder headaches on another 10, 15 days per month, for which they're taking painkillers of one sort or another, and the painkillers improve things to a degree, so they don't count that as a headache day. We're living in an age when there are new drugs appearing to help in the treatment of migraine. We've probably got 10 or 12 different medications that are tablets that are migraine preventives. We have Botox, which is used for people with very frequent migraine, and that's made a huge difference to the lives of many patients with very frequent migraine. So I think we're living in exciting times. There are treatments available. There are good treatments available now, and there will be even better treatments available in the future.
We also have another very exciting way of looking at human brain, where we can use electrical stimulation, which we go and change the electrical activity of the brain using reasonably simple devices that people use outside their scalp.
If there's something new coming on, I'll try it.
If we can give information to doctors and they can give information to us, it all helps.
We are moving into treatment or therapeutic era of neurology. Migraine is also the same. So therefore, when things are rapidly changing, we have to educate ourselves almost on a daily basis. New changes that we learn, we bring to the clinic. New changes that we learn, we bring to our hospitals. We share that with primary care physicians. We share that with patients. And we make decisions together. And in that way, we can build a better world to live well with these disabling disorders and live well with migraine.
There's a lot of hope out there, and never give up. Just never give up. Keep up the treatments and work with your doctors. Just hang in there. That's all I can say.